Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking. All right, so shout out to everybody that's in the building early. It's good to see each and every one of you. Hopefully everybody is doing great. If you can hear me okay and everything looks good on the screen, please give me a thumbs up or a radiation emoji in the chat. If you guys cannot hear me or the screen is unclear for whatever reason, please give me a thumbs down or an angry face and I will fix it. Also, there are some polls as far as notifications and Q&A in the chat. Make sure that you guys do those as well. Shout out to Reparations Nation. Shout out to Catsy. Shout out to We the People. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Make sure y'all show Brooklyn Queen some love. I think it's her birthday. Is it your birthday, Brooklyn Queen? Go shorty. It's your birthday. Sip Bacardi like it's your birthday. Shout out to you. Enjoy your birthday. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to AB Promotions. What's good with it, bro? Shout out to the specialist. Shout out to Anthony Roger Phillips. Shout out to Mastermind Hour. What's good with the Mastermind Hour? Shout out to Tedra Mitchell. All right, good to see everybody in the building. All right, so we're going to continue to do some more breakdown and analysis on the Kamala Harris interview, contradictions, and other issues that we see going on. And as much of this stuff is happening, I think we might end up having to do this every day for a while. You know what I'm saying? In addition to everything else that we do all doggone day. You know what I'm saying? Before we get into that, though, this is one of the things that we got to talk about. We got to talk about how ridiculous the Biden administration is. I've made I've made a ton of videos. I got 2 entire channels about the migrant crisis. I do a migrant crisis series on each of these channels. Has anybody seen any videos that I've done about Tren de Agua? We've been talking about them now for at least a year and a half. Recent updates, if you didn't see the live stream that I did last night, they have a couple apartment complexes under their total control in Aurora, Colorado. Now, they had denied this for quite some time, that this was actually going on. It's just completely out of control now, and they have no choice but to acknowledge it. How many people were aware of that? If you guys were aware of that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys were not aware of that, give me a thumbs down. So there's that, right? Next, top 2 issues facing the country right now based on all of these polls. The economy and immigration. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. All that being said, shout out to Caldona. What's good with it? All that being said, fresh up from the Chicago Tribune. Biden restarts immigration program for migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. I'll let you guys react to that in the chat. I'll let you guys react to that in the chat. As you guys can see, this article was put up August 30th of 2024 at 7:41 p.m. So this isn't an old article. This is new. All this stuff going on. Biden restarts immigration program for migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. They don't really make a case for themselves, right? Do they make a case for themselves? I mean, like, I'm not trying to be funny, but something got to be wrong with you. There's all this stuff going on. Hostile gangs in Colorado taking over. Hostile gangs in New York shooting up the police. Turn around and do this. It just doesn't make any sense. The Biden administration is restarting an immigration program that allows migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to come to the United States. And it is including, quote unquote, additional vetting of their U.S.-based financial sponsors following fraud concerns. Okay. The Department of Homeland Security had suspended the program earlier this month to investigate the concerns, but indicated that an internal review found no widespread fraud among sponsors. Together with our existing rigorous vetting of potential beneficiaries seeking to travel to the United States, these new procedures for supporters have strengthened the integrity of these processes and will help protect against exploitation of beneficiaries, the agency said. Now, let me ask you guys this. I think I kind of got an idea, but let's just, be on the safe side. How many people think that this is a good idea? If you think that this is a good idea, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that this is a good idea, then give me a thumbs down. I got a feeling I know what this is going to look like, but we're going to see. So now it says the program launched in January of 2023 and is a major piece of the Biden administration's immigration policies that create or expand pathways for legal entry while restricting asylum for those who cross the border illegally. Now, how does this restrict asylum for those who cross the border illegally? How does this do that? This provides another way for people to come into the country, and it doesn't provide any way to get people out of the country or prevent them from coming in. You know what I'm saying? The policy is aimed at countries that send large numbers of people to the United States and generally refuse to accept those who are deported, which we talked about yesterday with the Tren de Aragua situation. Venezuela is one of those places that refuses to take people back. Shout out to Black Free Thinker. What's good with it? It's paired with commitments from Mexico to take back people from those countries who cross the U.S. border legally. Under the program, the U.S. accepts up to 30,000 people a month from the 4 countries for 2 years and offers eligibility for work authorization. To qualify, migrants must have a financial sponsor in the U.S. who vouches for them and fly into an American airport at their own expense rather than crossing at the southern border. So instead of crossing at the southern border, all you got to do is just cross at the airport and have a sponsor. Okay? Those acting as sponsors and the migrants hoping to come to America undergo vetting by Homeland Security. And I'm not impressed by this undergoing vetting by Homeland Security, because I wouldn't be surprised if they consider everything as quote unquote vetting. And you see what we got going on now. Republicans have repeatedly criticized the program as an end run around immigration laws. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you all agree with that? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Shout out to DeAndre. Make sure y'all show DeAndre some love. Throw some liking forces in the chat for DeAndre. Make sure if y'all haven't hit the like button, y'all take a moment, hit the like button. If you haven't shared the video, take a moment, share the video, tag somebody that you know that's interested in this kind of info in the share, and subscribe to the channel. They immediately attacked the administration when the program was suspended early this month, pointing to it as further validation of their concerns about whether migrants are properly vetted. And they criticized the decision announced Thursday to restart. With all of this stuff going on, especially with that apartment complex in Colorado being completely under control, I definitely would not have started this up. Definitely would not have started this up. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Kid Gravity. Make sure y'all show Kid Gravity some love. Standing on business for 15 months. What's good with it, bro?
I'm standing on business. I'm standing on business. I'm standing on business.
Shout out to you. So now it says, instead of scrapping the clearly flawed program, the department is allowing it to continue without rooting out the fraud or putting adequate safeguards in place to prevent exploitation by sponsors here in the United States. But fundamentally, there would be no fraud to prevent if DHS stopped importing. See that? If the Department of Homeland Security stopped importing 30,000 inadmissible aliens every month in the first place, said Republican Representative Mark Green, chairman of House Homeland Security Committee. They shouldn't even have this program. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement Thursday that the additional vetting would include more scrutiny of the financial records that U.S.-based sponsors are required to submit, as well as their criminal backgrounds. So as you guys can see here, the additional vetting is only based on the American, is not based on the migrant. You guys see that, right? So how is that going to help anything? Department of Homeland Security said in a statement Thursday that the additional vetting would include more scrutiny of the financial records that U.S.-based sponsors are required to submit, as well as their criminal backgrounds. Now, let me ask you guys this. How does that help with vetting the migrant that's coming in? That's vetting the U.S. sponsor. Sponsors will be required to submit, see, again, not migrants, sponsors will be required to submit fingerprints, and the agency will bolster steps to identify sponsors who are fraudulent and when ones file numerous applications. But again, the issue is the migrants being vetted, and there's nothing in here saying any type of updated methods to improve the efficiency of the migrant vetting, the efficiency or the quality. You know what I'm saying? DHS said in an internal review it found some cases of fraud, such as sponsors using fake social security numbers, but that the majority of cases it investigated had a reliable explanation, such as a typo when a sponsor was submitting information online. Since the inception of the process, a very small number of supporters were found to have had fraud or criminal issues, warranting referral to law enforcement for investigation and for other appropriate action, the agency said. Homeland Security also said it had not found issues in vetting the migrants themselves, saying those who came to the U.S. under the program have been thoroughly screened and vetted. Notice how it doesn't say how. Notice it also doesn't give any criteria. Let me ask you guys a silly question. Why do you think that it doesn't say how, and why do you think that it doesn't give any criteria? Oh, man. When announced the program suspension, Homeland Security didn't say when processing stopped, but the news broke after the Federation for American Immigration Reform, a group that favors immigration restrictions, cited an internal agency report that raised questions about fraud. Neither Homeland Security nor FAIR have provided that report. FAIR asserted that the report showed that 3,218 sponsors were responsible for more than 100,000 filings, and that 24 of the top 1,000 Social Security numbers used by sponsors corresponded to dead people. Imagine that. We've never heard of anything like that before, have we? Yeah, no problem. Hopefully you have a great birthday, Brooklyn Queen. Enjoy yourself. Shout out to Greets. That's a great question. What do you guys think? Greed says, why haven't they deported the entire apartment building? Facts. They should just put that bad boy on a crane, throw it on a flatbed, and ship it down to a port. Or put some explosives or some drones in there or something. You know what I'm saying? But they haven't done it yet for whatever reason. Now, mind you, Aurora is the same city where Elijah McClain was, and he was walking down the street with a ski mask on, not bothering anybody, and they called some police and some EMTs to assassinate him. But they can't take care of these migrants. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says concerns about sponsors seeking a quick profit surfaced almost from the start. Facebook groups with names like Sponsors USA carry dozens of posts offering and seeking financial supporters. Since the program was launched, more than 520,000 people from the 4 countries have arrived in the United States. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Would you all say that this program incentivizes more people from these places to try to make it to the United States? If you guys think that this program does incentivize people to try to get to the United States, then give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think so, then give me a thumbs down. Shout out to DeAndre. Make sure y'all spam, some birthday cakes, some birthday presents in the chat for Brooklyn Queen. Make sure y'all show her some love. We're gonna have to get a drop for birthdays. What y'all think? I think we're gonna have to get a drop for birthdays. We're gonna have to give Brooklyn Queen hers belated once we get that all set up. But once we get it set up, yeah, we're gonna be rocking. So now here it says arrests for illegal crossings have plummeted across the 4 nationalities. Cubans were arrested 5,065 times during the first half of the year, compared with more than 42,000 arrests in November of 2022 alone. What was going on in November of 2022 where there was 42,000 situations that caused an arrest? The government must have just been sleeping. Haitians were arrested 304 times during the first 6 months of the year, compared with a peak of nearly 18,000 in September of 2021. All right. So again, you guys can see here, this article was published on August 30th of 2024 at 8:06 a.m. So knowing everything that's currently going down, as hot as it is, as far as immigration and all of this insanity, the Biden administration decides to do this and bring them in from one of the places where all of the wild migrants, the ones that are causing all the problems in Colorado, are coming from. How do you deal with an administration like that is my question. How do you deal with an administration like that? So we're going to take a listen here. Byron Donalds had some stuff to say about Kamala Harris. Now, we saw the other day that he went on Fox News and made a couple comments, but he's at a rally, looks like in Florida. Or no, it's in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So we're going to check this out. Hold on. Let's see. We'll get past this music real quick. Let's see. All right, there we go. All right, give me 2 seconds. If you guys haven't smashed the like button yet, please do me a favor. Take a moment, smash that like button. What's good with it, Edward? If you guys haven't shared, take a moment, share. All right. If you're not part of the Discord, hit that Discord link. If it don't work, let us know. The mods will get a new one in the chat for you.
You know what? This is my first time in Johnstown, PA, but I love being in Johnstown, PA. And we're here to make sure that Pennsylvania does the job on November 5th and make sure that Donald J. Trump is the 47th president of the United States. I was in New York last night, and I'm sitting down in the studio, and they say, Congressman, we want to play you the first clip of Kamala's interview on CNN. And so, of course, I'm like, sure, let's see it. I'm interested. And I watched the clip. And in my mind, I'm thinking, we waited 40 days for that? I mean, seriously, we waited 40 days for that.
Now, to that point, right? Shout out to Shamika. What's good with it, Shamika? To that point, here's the question. Kamala Harris struggled through an interview that was tailored and designed for her ease. Would you guys agree or would you disagree? Now, why am I saying that? I'm saying that to say this. If she struggled through an interview that was tailored and designed for her ease, how is she going to deal with a head-to-head confrontation debate? How is that going to work? That's going to be a complete and utter disaster. That's going to be a complete and utter disaster.
You see America and you see Johnstown. It took her 40 days to come out and demonstrate to the American people that she hasn't changed. She said it herself. Her values haven't changed. They are the same values that will take away your purchasing power. They are the same values that will shut down fracking in Western Pennsylvania. They are the same values that leave our southern border wide open. They are the same values that have our adversaries emboldened. And there is only one person who can stop her and save America, and that man is Donald J. Trump. So really, my job is simple. We need you to make sure you get out and work for Donald J. Trump. Every phone call you make is needed. Every door you knock is valued. If you haven't done it, go to TrumpForce47.com, sign up, and help this man become the next president of the United States. Here's one thing I know. RFKJ, Tulsi Gabbard, Republicans in the House, Republicans in the Senate, moderate voters in our country who have had enough. And they live in Pittsburgh. They live in Philadelphia. They live in Phoenix, Arizona. They live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they all have the same thing in mind. We have got to make America great again. So stand with us, Johnstown. Stand with us, Pennsylvania. Let's win on November 5th. And let's make Donald J. Trump the 47th president of the United States. God bless you. God bless America.
All right, so let's check this out. All right. Got a couple clips from Fox, then we're going to take a look at some articles real quick. Give me 2 seconds. So we're going to take a look at John Kennedy's reaction to the Kamala Harris interview.
One of our favorites, Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. Senator, thanks so much for joining us on Hannity. Are you buying it? The people of Louisiana, pretty important energy state. The people of Louisiana buying what she's selling?
Well, Jason, I listened to the vice president's interview. I'm biased, I suppose, because I know her well. She's a nice person. I just don't agree with her. I had two reactions to her interview: unsurprised, unimpressed.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. Do y'all agree with his assessment? Were you unsurprised and unimpressed? I knew somebody was going to say something.
Just like a woman. That's because some of you niggas, you be acting just like a woman. Nigga, Reaper keep it 1,000.
Why are you gay?
Just like a woman. That's because some of you niggas, you be acting just like a woman. Nigga, Reaper keep it 1,000.
That's hilarious. But I actually agree, though. I wasn't impressed with the interview at all. I wasn't impressed at all. As a matter of fact, the interview made me see exactly how down bad they are. They are down really bad. I'm almost certain, I'm almost 100% convinced they're going to do something to try as hard as they can to make the debate not happen. I'm not saying that I know that it's not going to happen. I got this feeling that they probably want it to stop. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Shout out to Maheko. What's good with it, bro?
Pretty simple guy. I like breakfast food and straight answers.
But he do look like his name is Gertrude, though, don't he? If y'all think he look like Gertrude or Mildred, give me a thumbs up in the chat. If y'all don't, then give me a thumbs down.
I didn't hear any straight answers from the vice president. What I heard her say basically was, I do too have values. And if you don't like them, I have others. I thought she engaged in tier 1 level pandering. It was sort of like a wolf promising to be a vegan if the sheep will just vote for it. Now look, in politics, as in life, and you know this, Jason, talk is cheap. What you do is what you believe. What you do is what you believe. And everything else is just cottage cheese. As I said, I know the vice president well.
Oh, man, it's crazy, man. Hey, if y'all haven't hit the like button yet, do me a favor. Take a moment. Smash that like button. All right? Let me see where we at real quick. We got 47 people watching. Shout out to y'all. I appreciate each and every one of y'all that's in here. And we got 31 likes. That's what's up. Smash that like button. Let's try to get the likes to about 70.
I've served with her for 7.5 years. I know what she will do as president. She is a San Francisco Democrat. She is a card-carrying member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party. Well, Republicans are not perfect, but the loon wing of the Democratic Party is crazy. I described Ms. Harris as AOC without the bartending experience. And I think that's accurate. That's how she'll govern. And I'll be glad to talk about specifics in her record. She has one. But you did a pretty good job of it yourself there.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about energy, because it's an issue all around the country. It's one of the top issues for Donald Trump in putting this country back on the right track. She says that she was never opposed to fracking. I mean, I'm so confused.
She literally, now this fracking thing is crazy, right? She literally lied right there during the interview with the clips available. When I saw her just sit there and lie with a straight face, I was like, you're not going to like try to change how you said that or anything. She just doubled down on it. She just doubled down on it. She clearly, she's not it. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be real bad. It's gonna be bad.
By what she's saying, as if there's no videotape to show exactly what she said on fracking and energy. You saw her. She cast the deciding vote on many of these issues right there in the Senate.
Well, I watched the vice president cast the tie-breaking vote in favor, for example, of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is just the Green New Deal. I think most Americans are all of the above energy type people. They are for every form of energy that is affordable and accessible. But that includes fossil fuels. I think the vice president does not support fossil fuels. She sued all the oil companies when she was the Attorney General of California. As I said before, I support other forms of energy, but I also support fossil fuels because we have to have them. I think I said one time, my car doesn't run off a ferry.
I actually agree with this 110%. If you guys agree with Mastermind Hour, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. Mastermind Hour says Kamala is so dumb that she doesn't realize the DNC has set her up to fail from the very start, starting with the border assignment. I would agree 100%. This is just about to be a complete catastrophe. We're literally watching a crash out in slow motion. You know what I'm saying? We're literally watching a crash out in slow motion.
dust and unicorn urine, and that's true. And I think that fossil fuels are going to be part of our energy, satisfying our energy needs for a long time, probably forever. Doesn't mean we shouldn't pursue others. The problem is that the part of the Democratic Party that Ms. Harris is from, they don't believe in fossil fuels. They just don't. They believe in wind, solar, and wishful thinking.
Yeah. I really do wish somebody would ask the vice president to define inflation, because I'm fairly convinced she doesn't know what inflation is, let alone how to solve it. And she acts as if they haven't been in a position to deal with it, and that she'll get around to it if she.
Now, here's the thing, right? I actually agree with this, because we've criticized the economic policy. The way that she's talking about this price gouging operation, that's not going to help. During the Ukraine conflict, they had the quote unquote Putin price hikes. We've talked about this a couple times. You guys remember the quote unquote Putin price hikes? Now, at that point in time, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, was at 40-year highs. Gas was at 40-year highs. Some commodities like gold were at 40-year highs. Why? Because of foreign policy, because of monetary policy, because of interest rate manipulation, because of foreign policy with Ukraine. Those drove the prices up. Those came straight out of the Biden administration. So what we're dealing with is we're actually dealing with somebody who is an incumbent. They have the ability to show a pattern towards making changes, and they've done none of it, while saying that they have all of these new ideas. And then when you review the ideas, they're all ideas from the Biden era portfolio. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Somebody make it make sense.
He's elected sometime in January.
Well, Ms. Harris helped create the worst inflation in 40 years in America.
There it is.
When she and President,
I mean, so here's the thing, right? This is not just a conservative talking point. This is actual economy. You can go and literally look at charts and see these things. Shout out to everybody that's watching. I appreciate you guys. You guys are in here killing it. If y'all haven't smashed that like button yet, please do me a favor. Smash that like button. If y'all haven't hit that bell yet, take a moment, hit that bell. Share the stream to your social media. We got 59 people watching. We got 42 likes. Let's try to get the likes to 90.
when Biden took over in 2021, a house that cost $304,000 costs $423,000 today. Her plan to try to lower prices looks like it was put together with vodka and darts. She wants price controls. She wants to raise the top federal income tax bracket. She wants to tax unrealized capital gains. It will make higher prices even higher. It will cause a lot of people to lose their jobs and others to see their wages lowered at a time when they need that income. I don't know where she came up with her plan, but I know what the result will be. And
yes,
Bidenomics to me is very simple. As I've said before, Bidenomics is easy. It's defining it's easy. It's paying more to live worse.
He sounds like Foghorn Leghorn, don't he? Y'all know who Foghorn Leghorn is? He sounds just like Foghorn Leghorn, don't he? Look at this. This is called the American Bazaar, and it's about Kamala Harris because she's bizarre. Now, is she written about in this article as a black person? Since she didn't want to address that question when it was asked for whatever reason? Tiffany said she's not wrong.
Just like a woman. That's because some of you niggas, you be acting just like a woman. Nigga, Reaper keep it 1,000.
That's hilarious, man. So yeah. So we're gonna check this out real quick. Popular Attorney General Kamala Devi Harris, who many think will one day run for governor, has got married just shy of her 50th birthday to attorney Douglas Emhoff, partner in charge of the law firm Venable LLP Los Angeles office in Santa Barbara last Friday. Of course, this is old. 5 months after they got engaged. The wedding ceremony, performed in the Santa Barbara courthouse, was presided over by Maya Harris, sister of the bride, who herself is married to Tony West, the Associate Attorney General of the United States. It is the first marriage for Harris, who is 49, the first woman, the first quote-unquote African American, and the first quote-unquote Asian American Attorney General in California. But again, all this old backstory stuff, we never find any of the old backstory stuff with the black stuff in it. We never find any. You know what I'm saying? Emhoff, who is 49, was previously divorced and has 2 children, one in college and one in high school, reported to Sacramento Bee. While she was an Alameda County deputy district attorney in the 1990s, Harris dated Willie Brown, the powerful speaker of the California State Assembly. Wikipedia reports said there was speculation the two would marry, but Brown broke up with her shortly after being elected mayor of San Francisco. Why y'all think that was? Why do y'all think that happened? Put your red pill thinking caps on. Why do y'all think that happened? So now here it says, Harris, who was born in Oakland, California, is the daughter of an Indian mother, Dr. Shyamala Gupalana. I don't know if that's how you say it, a breast cancer specialist who immigrated from Chennai to the United States in 1960s, and a Jamaican American father, Stanford University economics professor Donald Harris. All right. So again, where's the quote unquote African American part at? Where's the African American part? Because we know his nationality is Jamaican, but we saw the TikTok video with the Chinese Jamaican person, right? How many people saw that? How many people saw that TikTok video with the Chinese Jamaican person? So just because your nationality is Jamaican, that doesn't necessarily make you quote unquote black / quote unquote African American, right? So now here it says the Harris sisters grew up in a household that combined Hindu and Baptist teachings. Where did the Baptists come from? How do you combine Hindu and Baptist teachings when you have a Jamaican and an Indian mother? You have a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. Where do you get the Baptists out of that at? Where'd the Baptists come from? Where did the Baptists come from? Where did the collard greens come from? And were raised in Berkeley, Oakland, and Montreal, where their mother took a position doing research at the J General Hospital and teaching at McGill University. So you guys remember when we talked about yesterday how the J Times, that article that I was reading, they were trying to figure out how she was a quote unquote blue box girl? Well, as you guys can see, their mother was working in that area. Kamala Harris then attended Howard University in Washington, D.C., and received her Juris Doctorate from the University of California Hastings College of Law in 1989. She was admitted to the California bar in 1990. At the wedding, according to customs of the bride and bridegroom, she placed a flower garland around his neck and she broke a glass at the end of the ceremony, reported SF Gate. The very private wedding, which was not publicized, had a cellist play in the courtroom, and the bride and groom wrote their own vows with the help of Harris. All right, so I don't know. I don't know what they mean to help. The ceremony also included the bride's niece, Mina, reading from Maya Angelou's poem, Touched by an Angel, which ends, suddenly we see that love costs all we are, all we'll ever be. Yet it is only love which sets us free. The bride and groom's first dance to music played by a DJ was Corinne Bailey Ray's Like a Star, the report said. The bride's dress was golden by an unidentified California designer. The duo are not going for a honeymoon. So they didn't go for a honeymoon. You know what I'm saying? So that's interesting. Very interesting. Shady background. You know what I'm saying? Shady background. And why did I read that article? I read that article because when she was asked the question during the interview, what did she do? Let me know what she did when she was asked the question. It was very simple. Let me ask you guys that question. If you were on that interview for whatever reason, and Dana Bash said that somebody had said what Trump said about Kamala Harris to you, how would you have responded? That would be my question. Now, mind you, interestingly, Trump seems to have, in my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, he's only really ever came at people who actually were somewhat pretending. He had the questions about Obama's birth certificate. He's questioned about Kamala Harris. Now, here goes my question. Aside from those two, and also Nikki Haley, which valid questions, right? Who else did he ask about? Did he ever ask about anybody else? Shout out to Telegram. What's good with it? Shout out to Black Bitcoin Key. What's good with y'all? Shout out to Tabith. Who else did he come at? I think that's kind of interesting. Interesting little pattern there.
Over the past 4 years, Kamala and crooked Joe Biden have presided over an economic reign of terror, committing one financial atrocity after another. As vice president, Kamala cast the deciding votes that caused the worst inflation in American history. You're all victims of it. We all are. Everybody is a victim of it. It's a nation buster.
That was former President Trump hammering Vice President Kamala Harris over the Biden-Harris administration's track record on the economy. But Harris was quick to defend Bidenomics during her first sit-down interview as nominee, instead blaming Trump for the country's high costs.
Yeah, shout out to Black Free Thinker. Now, let me ask you guys this. The Pocahontas incident, that was with Elizabeth Warren, right? When she got busted out. Shout out to Quad Man. What's good with it, bro? So, but aside from Elizabeth Warren, Obama, and Kamala Harris, who else has ever had their identity in question that Trump came at with an identity question? That's what I got. Let me know what you guys think, because I just find that interesting. So instead of answering the question or addressing the question, and what's interesting about it is Kamala Harris, she has an entire defense force. Anybody notice that? You got D.L. Hughley, you got the ladies at the Journalism Association thing. She's got a whole defense fund, a whole defense force. And what's interesting about her defense force is that none of them are Asian. Did you guys happen to catch that? None of the people jumping out the window to try to defend her identity, not one of them are Asian. Mindy didn't defend her identity. What's up with that? Isn't that interesting? This is interesting to me. You know what I'm saying? It's real interesting to me. Shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 60 people watching. I appreciate you guys. And we got 51 likes. If you guys have not done this yet, please take a moment, smash that like button. If y'all haven't hit the bell, take a moment, hit the bell. If you haven't shared the stream, share the stream, tag a friend in it. Let's try to get the likes to 110.
You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability.
Yeah.
One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive. Housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis.
You have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done.
Shout out to Dre.
She also goes on to brag about inflation falling to less than 3%. It was actually lower when they took office than it is now. Paul, I want to get your thoughts on how she handled very predictable questions about the economy.
Yeah, she looked uncomfortable, sort of pained, like she was against the wall. And that had to be the most obvious question she knew was coming at her. I'll go back to what I said earlier. She has to own it all if she's going to talk about the fact that we did this and we did that. Again, I didn't see her own or do anything for 3.5, 4 years. But if you're going to own it all, then you have to own the bad stuff with it, which means the Afghan pullout, the porous border, lawfare against Donald Trump. We could go on and on. So if you're going to own the bad stuff, you own the good stuff, rather, you have to own the bad stuff as well. And really, that's where she should have been pressed. And everybody knows a good interview is not about the first question. It's about the follow-up question. It's about the second, because the first one, you're just going to get the rote response. And this wasn't a softball. This was a wiffle ball interview.
And she listed the things that she's put out before, the $25,000 for new home buyers, the child tax credit, but we still lack the clarity on the specifics on how it's being paid for. The follow-up questions, what you're talking about, Emily.
Right. And her team came out and said she offered a new way forward. What exactly was that? When she talked about an opportunity economy, what do you mean, capitalism? What you haven't advocated for so long? I felt that, to what we were talking about a moment ago, she has no command over experience. And I said this yesterday with you, that for a vice president who has spent many years in service as a senator, an AG, et cetera, that she likes to remind us, she is zero drawn on experience whatsoever to reassure me.
Let me ask you guys this. How many people feel that Tim Walz was there in the interview as her emotional support animal? You guys ever seen people walking around in the mall or somebody get on an airplane and they have a little emotional support animal? They have like a little dog, little Pomeranian or something with them to help them feel good, to help them just cope with the burdens of life. Didn't it seem like that's what he was there for? The whole situation was just extremely odd to me. If you guys think that Tim Walz was Kamala Harris's emotional support animal, give me a thumbs up. If y'all don't think that, y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. Shout out to Cutthroat Nash. What's good with it, bro? Shout out to Chris. What's good with you?
That she on a daily basis is actually in total command of information and experience. And you contrast that with J.D. Vance, who's an incredible encyclopedic speaker about statistics and experiences in legislature. Where is that from our vice president? This is supposed to be a candidate for president, the best of the best. And yet she strikes me as not only not even a figurehead, but not capable of holding an ounce of the positions she has. And she, frankly, to your point, to me, read as unprepared. Yes, she says those same over-rehearsed lines that she utters out, but there was no preparation there. All of her intro sentences seemed like she had a hubris in it, and it was an affront to be even asked that. It was really underwhelmed.
Leslie, there was a lot of buildup to this. How much would she embrace Bidenomics? How much of the last 3 years of her administration would she own? Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's not her administration. It's
The
Joe Biden.
Biden-Harris administration.
And last time I checked, I think we all went to the same history class and read the same Constitution. There's only 2 jobs a vice president has specifically. One is to be in charge of the Senate and be the tiebreaker, which she and those who have been on the right have done as well. And second is basically you're sitting in wait in case the president becomes
So you're making the argument she's not
or
responsible
dies.
for the economy?
No, she's
in
not.
any way at all. And
What was interesting about this is that, let me ask you guys this. So when we saw the catastrophe that was the debate between Trump and Joe Biden, could we go as far as to say it was noticed that, quote unquote, Joe Biden is ill, right? That's what she just said. She said ill. So we looked at him and we said, ugh, cognitively, this dude's not well. Interestingly, though, he's still the president. So he was incompetent to debate, but somehow he's competent to run the country. And she's not running the country. So who is? Does that make any sense?
Oh,
Then how can
this
she
is
claim credit for the successes?
she's
and
part.
embrace the
She's part of the Biden administration. You have to remember, first of all, this is unprecedented. What has happened, not just in my party, but in this election. Okay, you have Joe Biden, who was on the ticket. Now she's on the ticket. The people that were upset with Joe Biden, it was, and we were seeing it. It was really, especially post that debate age, okay? And we've seen the enthusiasm, nearly 80% enthusiasm in my party. You know, we haven't seen numbers like that since Barack Obama. But because I want to get all my numbers right, here's what we do have that is Bidenomics and that my party should talk about, and she is vice president in that administration, and that she's continuing in that vein economically. You have GDP growth up under Trump 2.6%, under Biden 3.5%. Inflation just over 3%, 6% actually when Trump first took office in his first 42 days. We have record stock market highs. The Feds are going to lower the rate, and the list goes on and on. And so, you know, she is going to continue on with Bidenomics, and that's why she hails his administration, which she's vice president of, that she will continue to do if she were president.
Tommy, what do you make of that argument that it's just not her fault?
Well, I hope that she uses the term Bidenomics, and I hope that she runs with it, because Americans don't like Bidenomics. There's a reason that Biden stopped using Bidenomics and all of his aides stopped using Bidenomics, because it wasn't working. He wasn't feeling the plight and the hardship of the American people. Simply telling everybody things are okay when they're not feeling that they're okay wasn't working. It's not going to work for Kamala either. But what strikes me when she's asked about the economy, I think of Joe Biden. Joe Biden at one time could have answered that question. Maybe not today because of other issues, but at one point, Joe Biden could have answered that question. I might not have liked it, but he could have given you an answer. We didn't really get much of an answer from Kamala. And what also bothers me is in terms of the economy, her first instinct when she had to put a policy forward was essentially price fixing, which was a horrible idea by everyone's account, even yours, Leslie. We talked about it last week on this very network.
And
That's
that's
what
something we
bothers
didn't
me.
get clarity on either.
Exactly. She said that she wants to stop price gouging, but then it's price fixing. So how are you going to do that? I wish there would have been more follow-up into how are you going to create your opportunity economy? We didn't get that.
Yeah. When is the next interview? When is the first press conference? We're still waiting. It's going to be exciting.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me.
So there's that. All right. So now we're going to take a look at a video from MSNBC. Shout out to Torian. What's good with it, bro? And this video, they want us to know that we should normalize, quote unquote, changing our minds. Now, the reason why they're saying we should, quote unquote, normalize changing our minds is because what they're trying to convince us is that they're trying to convince us that what has gone on with Kamala Harris is that Kamala Harris has, quote unquote, changed her mind over time. Is that what happened? Has she changed her mind? Now, I want you guys to take a look at this because they got this dude that's a human being that actually looks like a cartoon character. He looks like a human cartoon character version of a alternative universe Vivek Ramaswamy doppelganger. Watch this.
So, Anand, let's talk about the interview. We combed through a lot of it in our last hour.
There you go, right there. I don't know who this dude is.
Just like a woman. That's because some of you niggas, you be acting just like a woman. Nigga, Reaper keep it 1,000.
Look at that. What's going on there?
Some fresh sound bites there today, but just in this hour, going at some of the issues on which she has held different positions. Last hour, we talked in some detail about fracking. She's saying very clearly, no, I'm not going to ban fracking. I said that as the vice presidential nominee in 2020. I'm saying it now as the Democratic nominee for president. We're not going to ban fracking, despite what I said in 2019 during my own primary campaign. Now talking about immigration, that she does not want to decriminalize illegal immigration. So what did you make of that as a voter, an independent voter who is sitting there saying, which version of Vice President Harris should I believe? The one in front of me now or the one who was in the Senate and the one who ran for president in 2019? What she's saying effectively is believe what I'm saying now. Does she?
Now, let me ask you guys a question. Is this a concern? See, because one thing that's happening is that people are trying to downplay the issue that Kamala Harris Her only element of consistency that she has is that she's consistently inconsistent. She is a consistent, habitual flip-flopper. That is the only thing that's consistent about her. Would you guys agree? Aside from being inconsistent, there is no other consistency about Kamala Harris. Is that a concern? That's a concern to me. I would at least like some element of consistency. The only consistency with Kamala Harris is volatility. Let me know what you guys think.
Did you make a convincing case?
Yeah, I think she did. And I think sometimes we're not honest with ourselves about, a couple things. First of all, we change our minds all the time based on information, based on where we're sitting, based on whether we're a junior person at the office or the person running the office.
So now here's the question, right? What's the evidence that Kamala Harris changed her mind? What's the evidence that she changed her mind? There's no evidence that she changed her mind. The only evidence that there is that she'll just lie about whatever she needs to lie about when she's there on the spot. That's it. There's no evidence that she changed her mind. Any of the positions that she's flip-flopped on, she's not given a reason. She's not said, I was presented with this information, and as a result, now I feel this way. There's none of that. There's no explanation. There's no breakdown for why she changed her position. It's just simply the position change. So that's different than changing your mind. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree that that's completely different than changing your mind, give me a thumbs up. If you disagree, then give me a thumbs down and let me know why.
And it's actually normal. We should normalize changing your mind. I think sometimes we in journalism shame people kind of figuring out a different view that they might hold and call it flip-flopping and try to kind of catch people in it, when in some ways, on some issues, that's a measure of progress. I think we also need to recognize that she is in a different context right now than she was in a 2020 Democratic primary. She's in a general election against an American fascist, Donald Trump. And let's just be real. Like, you need to sometimes do different things in a general election against a far right candidate than you do in a primary. Like, I don't think we can kind of pretend that's not the case. I think she said something by way of explanation of that actually was quite interesting and moving and goes beyond the familiar kind of tacking to the center. She talked about this notion of consensus when she was kind of pressed on this idea of reversal. And she said, I believe we have to work toward a consensus of how we can solve these things. And I think that kind of allows you to square the circle, which is to say, and this is true for a lot of liberals, in American life, where I think a lot of liberals who would distinguish themselves from progressives actually share progressive ideals in a certain form, share a certain notion of what immigration should be like. Don't think the way the right does about it. Share certain notions about preferring people to have healthcare to not having healthcare. Where liberals and progressives often differ is like their sense of how much power they're willing to smash to do it, where they think other people are. And so she talked about, look, I've expressed some of these ideals, but we have to be mindful, particularly in the position she's in now, of where other people are, where the country is, what can a large majority of people be led to want and be led to fight for. And I think that's a reasonable position to take, even if it's not, the same as my position on any given issue.
And so, Anand, you're right. The underlying message of let's turn the page, we're not going back, is that the stakes are so high that we cannot return to the years of Donald Trump. That's a position and something she said very explicitly in that interview yesterday. We showed some of Donald Trump's reaction, making very plain to the American public how different these two are, just visually. Watching Vice President Harris give an interview, talk coherently about policy, whether you agree or not, and also to have sort of just an after.
She didn't talk coherently about policy. What policy did she talk coherently about? That's my question for you guys. So this individual here, he's saying that Kamala Harris did this wonderful interview and talked competently about policy. Which policy did she talk competently about? She didn't talk competently about any policies. She didn't talk competently about anything during that interview.
Affect, a more calming affect than the chaos that comes with Donald Trump. How important, how powerful is that contrast?
When I was watching last night and then just the clips that you were showing, three things struck me. First of all, these are people with heart, right? They're just like people who, I'm not saying they're off the chart. I'm saying they're just normal people who feel things for other people, who feel proud when their son loves them, and these things shouldn't be exceptional in American life. But when you're running against Donald Trump and JD Vance, being people with a heart is a really big contrast. Second, these are people who know a lot about stuff, to use a big word. These, just going into the weeds. If anything, Kamala Harris errs on the side of being very intricate in discussing some of these issues, in a non-soundbitey way. And gosh, what a relief to have someone whose sin sometimes is knowing too much about issues when she's up against a kind of babbling fascist. And finally,
So that's what her sin is. Her burden is that she knows too much.
Just like a woman. That's because some of you niggas, you be acting just like a woman. Nigga Reaper keep it 1,000.
Talentless, scandalous, plebiscite, babbling.
What kind of shit is that?
She just knows too much, I didn't see that part of the interview. I missed that part. That must have been one of the parts that CNN decided to edit and keep. Did y'all see that part where she just displayed all this superior knowledge about all of these policies and just this economic mastery of the future? I didn't see any of that.
Contrast with Tim Walz's favorite word. These are just normal people who I think are showing themselves to be normal. And so what all that amounts to me, the word I wrote down as I was sitting here waiting to come on is anti-inflammatory. I think this kind of notion of the last decade that the vice president was talking about, it's been an inflammatory decade. Not just Donald Trump, but the culture in general has been an inflammatory culture, right? And inflammation, it's not just something getting better. Like inflammation is what kills our bodies, right? A lot of things inflame us, and there's some things that are kind of anti-inflammatory. Our politics has been a politics of inflammation, of constant warfare, of everything dramatized, even within our parties, even within the internecine splits. And I think this ticket, in many ways, is an anti-inflammatory ticket, downplaying kind of the personal issues of identity and gender that while significant, can be inflammatory.
Really? I don't know if I would agree with that. I would actually agree. I would actually say that the Harris Walz ticket is actually putting a lot of focus on identity politics, quote unquote, issues, and opening themselves up for vulnerabilities to be criticized based on those identity politics issues, which is one of the reasons why you have them using the DEI attacks on her. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. This dude right here is wilding. Yeah, shout out to y'all in the chat, man. Yeah, this dude is wilding. He don't know what he's talking about. They just letting him go. I guess everybody is just kind of just in awe and shocked, and they can't believe that they have an actual human cartoon character in real time with them on this interview. He looks like he just walked right out of a Pixar studio, you know what I'm saying, into the interview. So make it make sense.
Downplaying these kind of fights within progressives and moderates, and frankly, talking down Trump as kind of tired and weird and just past his prime, rather than again inflaming him into this strongman monster, which in some ways can be counterproductive, as we know. So I think we're seeing the politics of anti-inflammation, and after a very inflammatory decade, I think a lot of Americans are going to be drawn to it.
Yeah, to an exhausted American voting public, a turning of the page might feel pretty good right now. Vice President Harris wrapped up her bus tour of Georgia with a rally in Savannah last night. Nearly every seat taken in the arena, about 9,000 people in attendance there. Harris is the first presidential candidate to campaign in Savannah since Bill Clinton did in 1992, underscoring just how vital the campaign views Georgia and how in play it now is. Harris praised voters there for electing 2 Democrats to the United States Senate in 2020 and for helping to secure a win for the Biden.
I've heard rumors that the other Democrats don't even rock with her all like that. I've heard rumors that the other Democrats, they don't even rock with her all like that. But we'll see.
Biden-Harris ticket 4 years ago.
Georgia, for the past 2 election cycles, voters in this very state, you who are here, have delivered. You sent 2 extraordinary senators to Washington, D.C. You sent President Biden and me to the White House. You showed up, you knocked on doors, you registered folks to vote, and you made it happen. You did that.
Yeah, look, shout out to Deneen. Deneen says Harris Walz, the anti-inflammatory ticket. That's catchy. Right. You can just think of them and think of keeping hemorrhoids under control. What a great way to associate. What a great brand. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the candidates that'll keep your hemorrhoids in check.
Did that. And so now we are asking you to do it again. Do it again. Let's do it again.
Tia Mitchell, you know Georgia so well, covering it with the AJC. We're reminded, of course, of the 2020 election. We can't forget, because Donald Trump, on that infamous phone call with Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, reminds us every time we hear it that the vote was under 12,000 in 2020. It was a state that the Biden campaign had worried maybe out of play this year. But now that the Harris campaign has brought back into play, what does it tell you that the campaign is spending so much time in Georgia?
Well, I think it tells us two things. Number one, I think it tells us that the campaign's, internal polling indicates that Georgia is still winnable. Otherwise, they wouldn't be spending so many resources in the state. But it also shows us that it's an important state for both campaigns. And the more that Harris campaigns in Georgia, the more she forces Donald Trump to spend money and resources on Georgia. And the more that Trump spends resources on Georgia, the less he has to spend in other battleground states. So it's a strategic move for Georgia, but I do think Harris would love to carry the state again.
It is striking to think that with Joe Biden at the top of the ticket after the debate, the Trump campaign was thinking, Tia, just how high it could run up the score, how many states it could grab, that it had Georgia and Arizona and Nevada in the bag, and maybe they're going to go win Minnesota, and they're talking about New Jersey and all this. And now, as you point out rightly, playing defense in a lot of places that they didn't think they'd have to. So as you cover the state of Georgia, what will be important? Obviously, the turnout in Atlanta, suburban voters around Atlanta going toward Kamala Harris, perhaps some of the women who like what they hear from her. What do you think will be decisive in Georgia come Election Day?
Shout out to Cutthroat Rock for funding the organization. Make sure y'all show Cutthroat Rock some love. Throw some flames, some radiation emoji, and some ducks in the chat for Cutthroat Rock, the first stream sponsor.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the March of Dimes.
Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, yo.
Cutthroat Ross says it's like she's trying to copy Obama's speaking cadence. Yeah, she's the constructed candidate. I don't know if you guys saw the stream that I did on my other channel. We did a stream that was called Kamala Harris, the constructed candidate. She's like, how many people watched the Transformers back in the day? Y'all remember Autobot X when they had that random Autobot and he had just a whole bunch of different parts and they ended up putting Spike's consciousness into him? That's how Kamala Harris is. All she is a unoriginal, put together, just different pieces of a bunch of different notable Democrats into one Frankenstein candidate that has literally no personality, because her personality is scattered throughout all of the fragments of what she's trying to be. That's literally it. That's why she's empty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a lot of the things you just mentioned, but I think the fact that the bus tour focused on South Georgia tells us a lot and is kind of illuminating of the Georgia electorate. Yes, South Georgia is pretty rural. It's very conservative, but rural Georgia means 25% Black. Those are Democratic voters. And quite frankly, there are still some blue dog Democrats in rural South Georgia. So there are votes even in those rural pockets, not necessarily a majority of the votes. Those are still, conservative counties, but of course, you win the Electoral College by the popular vote in each state. So the Harris campaign is saying, hey, we're going to go everywhere we can to get every vote that.
Shout out to Mastermind Hour. Mastermind Hour said Obamatron. Speaking of Obamatron, make sure if you guys aren't subscribed to the Magatron channel, you subscribe. If one of the mods could put the link in the chat, that'd be great.
We can, because yes, our most of our votes are going to come from Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, the Atlanta suburbs. But if we can run up the score, if we can lose by less, so to speak, in South Georgia and other rural parts of the state, perhaps we can put together a win in 2024 and get those 16 electoral votes.
Yeah, it's such a good point. This was not just a tour of Atlanta and DeKalb and Cobb counties that we've come to see from Democrats. They're working South Georgia. Washington correspondent for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Tia Mitchell, thanks so much for your insights. We appreciate it.
All right, so there's that. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at this article from NBC, and it says 5 takeaways from Harris's first major interview as the Democratic nominee. Now, do you guys think that they're going to give an honest critique? Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Throw some liking forces in the chat for Brooklyn Queen. Make sure y'all hit that link that Brooklyn Queen put in there too. 5 takeaways. from Harris's first major interview as the Democratic nominee. The vice president responded to questions about her shifting stances on some major issues since 2019, saying, "My values have not changed." Notice, and then they don't have anything else there. Because there's literally nobody in their right mind that can get behind that. Like that's it. That's a finishing move. You know what I'm saying? So let's take a listen to this.
Overnight, in her first extensive interview since President Biden dropped out of the race, Vice President Kamala Harris defending some of her shifting policy positions since she last ran for the White House in 2019.
I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
On immigration, she was pressed about a 2019 primary debate where she raised her hand when asked whether the border should be decriminalized.
Do you still believe that? I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally.
She was also asked about her past positions on banning fracking.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. Joe Biden will not ban fracking. I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did.
So this is where she just lied. She just flat out lied. Now, here's the thing about her just flat out lying. We literally saw her flat out lie in real time. And instead of addressing the fact that she just flat out lied in real time, you literally have all of these clowns all over the media flying off the handle, attacking people who are critiquing these lies instead of actually critiquing the liar. Shout out to Deneen. I got you, Deneen. Hold on real quick.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real. Oh, you are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real. Oh, you are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yeah. And that's just it. And we're just supposed to accept it. I think that's fascinating. Now, here's my thing, right? How come there hasn't been a simp cast, a simp broadcast, a simp collaboration of all of these simps that are attacking everybody who's critiquing her? Why don't they do a video or some type of programming and show us all how everybody who has any type of issue with anything that she said, show us how we're all wrong coherently and logically using facts and data? Where's that content at? You got DL Hughley, Ricky Smiley. That would be pretty easy for them to get something together, put a little presentation together, put it on YouTube, right? It wouldn't be that hard. Top 10 misconceptions about Kamala Harris. Debunk everything that we're saying. Why is it that they haven't done it yet? What do you guys think? What's you guys' theory on why we don't have that yet?
Asked about her past positions on banning fracking.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. Joe Biden will not ban fracking. I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking.
Now, so what you see now is because Kamala Harris has literally flip-flopped on every single issue. She's completely and 110% exposed. She's ultimately compromised from all angles. There's no surface of her that is not compromised. What you now see is the mainstream media running a counter narrative to try to put the focus on Trump and his change in position on abortion. Have you guys started to notice that coming through the news cycle? If you've noticed that, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't noticed that, then give me a thumbs down.
We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally.
She was also asked about her past positions on banning fracking.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. Joe Biden will not ban fracking. I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
So you can see she can look at you right in your eye. She can look at you dead in your face and lie. She's that kind of person. She's that kind of person. She can look you, give you eye contact straight in your eye and say something that's completely false.
And fracking.
Harris, who also rallied supporters in Savannah, Georgia, is touting proposals to extend the child tax credit and give $25,000 in down payment assistance to first-time home buyers. So why didn't she take those steps during her first 3.5 years in office?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%.
She also brushed off former President Trump questioning her racial identity last month.
Now, Trump has also, he's changed positions on other things too. He's changed position on Bitcoin. He used to be completely anti-Bitcoin. Now he's really pro-Bitcoin. None of these issues have really been anything that they've really been talking about because they really don't talk about the important issues. They just talk about the stuff that's going to get the most focus, stuff that people are interested in, right? So now they're about to go over this part here about the quote-unquote racial issue. Let's listen.
She also brushed off former President Trump questioning her racial identity last month.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black.
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's not how you deal with that. So what happens when Putin says, I don't want you advancing any more NATO near Ukraine? That's going to be the answer. Same old tired playbook. Next question, please. That's how we're going to deal with that. Let me ask you guys this question. Is this a poker face right here? You're visibly shook by a silly question. The emotion is copiously gushing from her face. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. There's going to be places that she goes to and people that she talks to that are going to be purposely and deliberately trying to get under her skin, probably more so than Trump if she were to end up becoming a president. There's a lot of countries in the world that don't like us because we do not likable stuff. And that's how you're going to answer? You're just going to pucker your face up? What level of competence does this show?
Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, saying he misspoke when he said he carried weapons in war during his time in the Army National Guard, despite never being deployed in combat.
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct.
Harris also describing for the first time publicly how she found out President Biden was dropping out of the race.
The phone rang and it was Joe Biden. And he told me what he had decided to do. And I asked him, are you sure? And he said, yes.
Harris says that if she's elected, she'd appoint a Republican to her cabinet because she wants to have different views at the table.
Now,
former president.
If you ask me, that's another flip-flop. If you guys would agree, that's another form of a flip-flop, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree and y'all don't think that's another form of a flip-flop, give me a thumbs down. She doesn't have the ability to try to brush that off as, well, I'm just being open-minded. When you flip-flop and you're completely inconsistent, you don't get that privilege of I'm being open-minded. You change sides. That's what that's going to get looked at, as it should. As it should. She's trying to play the game and is losing.
President Trump responded to the interview on social media, writing that it was boring and that Harris rambled incoherently. Correct.
How many people thought that the interview was boring and that Kamala Harris rambled incoherently? Let me know what you guys think. There's an article from BBC, and it attempts to answer the $1 million question. And the $1 million question is, why did she have a emotional support animal with her? Why does she have an emotional support animal with her during the presidential election? Why is Harris bringing Walls to her first major interview? I have no idea. Does anyone have any idea? 3 weeks ago, just days after being formally chosen as the Democratic presidential nominee, Kamala Harris was pressed on her plans for a sit-down interview, and that's because she just decided to not have one for days. I've talked to my team, she told reporters on the airport tarmac in Detroit. I want us to get an interview scheduled before the end of the month. On Thursday night, Ms. Harris will just barely make good on that promise, sitting down with CNN's Dana Bash for her first interview. But Ms. Harris will not be there by herself. The vice president will be joined by her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, for the primetime appearance airing at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Ms. Harris may have answered the question of when she would conduct an in-depth substantive discussion of her candidacy and agenda, standard procedure of all party presidential candidates. But with Mr. Walz in tow, the decision to make a joint appearance may also fuel growing criticism that after escaping the rigor of a months-long presidential primary, she is now dodging the scrutiny that comes with the solo interview. And I would actually agree with that. What do you guys think? Hey, if y'all agree with DC Precise, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree with DC Precise, give me a thumbs down. DC Precise says she being just like a woman.
Just like a woman. That's because some of you niggas, you be acting just like a woman. Nigga Reaper keep it 1,000.
Oh man, that's hilarious. So now here they say, I think it's incredibly weak sauce to show up with your running mate, said Scott Jennings, a former special assistant to President George W. Bush on CNN, adding that Harris had a troubling lack of confidence in her own political ability. Now, when we've talked about this is what I kept saying. All of these actions and all of these things that she does, they are indicative of and they lead to an appearance of having no confidence. She doesn't seem to have any confidence. She doesn't seem sure of herself at all. And honestly, aggression, the way that she's passive aggressive, she a little, she got a little person that she tries to exert a little personality on her. She doesn't really have one, but she tries to exert it so that you know that it's there. That's indicative of a lack of confidence as well. This is what I'm saying about for somebody that's able to size people up, Kamala Harris is not going to be able to really do very well against somebody like that. She's very transparent. She's very emotional. She's very everything all out on her sleeve. She's very impulsive. She tries to shut down conversations with little snide remarks. That's not going to work to somebody that doesn't care. The great implosion is going to come at some point, and it's going to be really bad, and it might end up costing her her political career, because once people outwardly see exactly how just how incompetent she actually is, at that point they're going to start asking the question: is it safe to even have this individual working in the capacity that they're working in, because they have too much responsibility, and I don't trust this. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, still, supporters of Ms. Harris insist that given the unprecedented nature of her candidacy, following President Joe Biden's sudden departure from the race, she is taking things at a smart pace. I think the cadence has been right, said Peter Gangreco, a Chicago-based Democratic strategist. Win the nomination, pick your nominee, lay out your economic plan, do your convention, and now do some sit-downs and amplify that. Joint interviews featuring both members of a presidential ticket are not usual. Yeah. So again, why do we have this one here? We had this one here because Kamala Harris cannot stand up on her own. She can't stand up on her own. Shout out to D-Side. Shout out to Detroit 313. What's good with y'all? She can't stand up on her own. Barack Obama and Joe Biden sat for an interview with 60 Minutes after Mr. Biden was selected as the vice president. That's back when his brain used to work in 2008, arguably, allegedly, maybe, at the very least better than it is currently, right? 8 years later, Hillary Clinton and her running mate, Tim Kaine, did the same thing. For Ms. Harris and Mr. Biden in 2020, they picked ABC's 2020. And less than a week after Trump announced J.D. Vance as his running mate, the pair were jointly interviewed on Fox. But since Mr. Biden passed the torch to her late last month, Ms. Harris has limited most of her engagement with the press to scripted and highly controlled environments. A little control freak. People who are control freaks have zilch confidence. None. They are completely out of control and their anxiety is on 10 at all times. She's literally crawling out of her skin that entire interview. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. Shout out to James. James said, I'm puzzled by all this support that she had. Here's why I'm not. I'm not puzzled by all this support that she had because she needs to be on constant life support, bro. If she's not on constant life support, it's going to be just a great implosion. An implosion that implodes on itself in such a way that it becomes a supernova and then a black hole. Shout out to Fantizzy. What's good with it, bro? You know what I'm saying? So now here it says her last formal sit-down interview was on June 24th, more than 2 months and a political lifetime ago. That's wild. And the fact that there was no urgency. She didn't I want to talk to anybody that I can. No, just it is what it is. Her occasional interactions with reporters, brief answers to be shouted questions on her way to and from campaign events have done little to quell Republican claims that she is shrieking any opportunity to have her own record and agenda put under the microscope. And that's because she's exposed on all fronts. If your entire surface area is exposed, the only way to avoid exposure is to avoid allowing yourself to be open for observation. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. That's the reason why they keeping her in the garage. They keeping her in the garage with a sheet over her. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says the harshest criticism has come from her Republican opponents who have both given several interviews in the past month. She's not smart enough to do a news conference, Mr. Trump told the media earlier in August. She won't do interviews with friendly people because she can't do better than Biden. And what's interesting about that is that she's kind of substantiating those talking points. She's kind of actually not even just kind of. She is substantiating those talking points. The Democratic nominee has enjoyed a surge in momentum since entering the race. So now this is the question that you got to ask. How does she have any momentum whatsoever? How do you have any momentum when it's just constant fail after fail after fail after fail after fail? How do you have momentum? The only momentum that she should have is momentum going down. But for whatever reason, her numbers are going up. It doesn't make any sense. Now, after her whirlwind introduction to American voters, she needs to reinforce that energy, said Republican strategist and Trump critic Chip Felkel. She's got to get out there, she said. She's got to show that she can think under pressure, because that's part of what the president has to do. And she can't show that if she's not able to do that. And from what she's shown so far, that's not one of her better skill sets. Shout out to the Perpetual 50. Make sure y'all throw 50 in the chat for the Perpetual 50.
This is the hardest.
I don't know what be going on with my drops. Them bad boys be getting stuck. Real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching, man. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you guys haven't smashed the like button, please do me a favor. Take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell, and also share the stream to your social media. And when you share it, make sure that you tag somebody who is interested in this type of information. I definitely appreciate it. We got 58 people watching. We got 73 likes. Let's try to get the likes to 130. So now here it says, since she's campaigned in the Democratic presidential primary in 2019, Ms. Harris has switched her stance on several key policy positions. And again, backing off of some of her more liberal promises. Now, here's the thing, right? This is what I need everybody to help me out with. I need everybody to help me hard. Help me out with this. Help me understand. All right. Shout out to RT the Brown. What's good with it? Now, check this out. Charlemagne the God, Ricky Smiley, Roland Martin, all these other people, right? All these people are going ham on any black person that is asking questions about Kamala Harris, right? But all these white media outlets, BBC, as you guys can see right here, NBC, the liberal media outlets, Washington Post wrote an article that literally just destroyed her entire economic plan. They haven't said anything about them. Why do you guys think that that is? Why do you guys think that that is? Do you think that they read those articles? Do you guys think that they've compared any of the economic policies? Do you guys think that they've taken a macro or microeconomic class? Charlemagne the God has been on MSNBC and on NBC and on CNN many times. Now, do you think that Charlemagne the God is going to go on CNN? Is he going to give Dana Bash a talking to? Don't ever ask Kamala Harris any of those questions that hurt her little feelings. You think he's going to do that? He should. Because I guarantee you the way that he barks at one of us could probably do more damage to him in response to that than Dana Bash. So why not go on there and talk to the interviewer? Right? Does that make sense? I want to start seeing these people like Charlemagne. I want to see them start poking their chests out at the places that invite them on there to talk. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Make sure y'all show Brooklyn Queen some love. Throw some flames, some radiation emoji, and some ducks in the chat for Brooklyn Queen for funding the organization.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the marching dimes.
Silence! Silence! I ain't got no money, pop.
Cash rules everything around me. Queen, get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Definitely appreciate it. Brooklyn Queen says, I think most of her momentum is fabricated. I wish we had the inside track to prove it. we definitely can rely on Sambos and Coons. Facts. If y'all agree with Brooklyn Queen, throw some flames in the chat. I agree. You know what I'm saying? I would like to see a sit-down technical analysis with Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey, Charlemagne the God, and D.L. Hughley of her economic policy. I'm going to grab my popcorn. I'm going to get comfortable in my chair. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch and see what they say. Right? So now here it says, she has abandoned pledges to support Medicare for all, giving all Americans access to government-funded health care, and ban fracking, and the vice president now supports a bipartisan border bill that includes hundreds of millions of dollars on border wall, something Ms. Harris once called un-American. So as you guys can see, when it comes to the BBC is a liberal news network, right? The Washington Post is a liberal news network. The New York Times is a liberal news network. And all of these places are all criticizing Kamala Harris, all for the same thing. They're all criticizing her all for the same thing. But what's interesting is that the radio personalities and the athletes and the comedians, the funny guys, they got a problem with it if we criticize her. But these media outlets, they criticize him. How's that work? Somebody make it make sense. So now here it says, these apparent changes could open her up to questions about being a policy flip-flopper, an unwelcome label for a candidate trying to define herself. And that's another interesting thing. I don't think she's even tried to define herself. What is the definition of Kamala Harris? There's no one binding, defining trait, characteristic, quality, or word that you can think of when you think about Kamala Harris other than negative stuff like flake, phony, flip-flopper, floozy, floundrel. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of F words. So now here it says, but by doing a joint interview, the Harris campaign may have calculated the pressure and the difficult questions will at least be shared between the two of them. And it ensures they are both in lockstep when it comes to explaining policy. And we didn't even see evidence of that. There was no evidence of a lockstep. There was evidence of a support animal. You know what I'm saying? She had a human support animal there with her. She had a human Teddy Ruxpin there. You guys remember Teddy Ruxpin? She had him there with her. Mr. Gangreco, the Democratic strategist, predicted Ms. Harris and Mr. Walz will try to turn the focus onto their economic plan, which their economic plan is non-existent anymore because it got shredded, because it's old Biden administration policy that has been calculated to possibly, if enacted for 4 years, add 1.7, if I'm not mistaken, 1.7 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, dollars to the national deficit. I think the total, if it remains in place forever, is 2.1 trillion calculated, estimated for the national deficit. To lower the cost of living and provide economic security that she first announced at a rally in Raleigh, North Carolina 2 weeks ago. Mr. Gangreco also pointed to another potential benefit of a joint interview, drawing a contrast between Mr. Walz and Republican counterpart, J.D. Vance, who he has labeled weird. Now, I want you guys to pay very close attention. The party of the people that have beards and wear sundresses are calling the people that have families and husbands and wives weird. And I guess that's supposed to do something. Like, that's the new strategy. We'll just call these people weird and weird and weird and weird. And I guess what? They're going to just run and go hide under a rock or something like that? Because the fuzzy wuzzy army is coming? Like, what are we doing here? It's 2024. You got dudes in stilettos calling dudes in tennis shoes weird. This is for real, absolute insanity. Let's see what she's talking about in this video. It's probably gonna be an ad, so make sure y'all hit the like button if y'all have. Oh, it's not. That's for sure. Oh, this is that. We already seen this, the DNC. We don't need to see that. And they're gonna mess up my video with the copyright Beyonce. The copyright Beyonce song that Kamala Harris is able to use for free. You know what I'm saying? Still, the real impact of Ms. Harris and Mr. Wall's sit down won't be known until it's done. I think that this sit down actually exposed them even more. I do not think that the interview had a positive effect. I think that the interview hurt her, and I think that the interview actually revealed why their strategy has been to keep her not saying anything and to keep her out of the public eye. She is a liability anywhere she's exposed. She's a liability anytime she opens up her mouth. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. So now here it says Ms. Harris's record with high-pressure interviews is mixed. In 2021, a conversation with NBC's Lester Holt, in which she fumbled through questions about her role in the administration's border policy, was widely regarded as a failure. I mean, and she was in her own world, too. She was in her own delusional world. Y'all remember that? I mean, Lester Holt didn't really ask any crazy questions. And she did the whole laughy, passive-aggressive thing. I mean, I haven't been to Europe. I mean, why? I haven't been to Europe. I mean, why? And you failed. Like you thought you was doing something with that. You haven't been to Europe, and you failed the interview. How do you fail the easy classes? They trying to schedule her early for calculus, and she ain't even got through trans math yet. Could you imagine? Like, just imagine this. They do this all over the place too. Being a president, this ain't the only place that this happens. Just imagine if you on an operating table and you about to get a craniotomy, and you got a neurologist, a neurosurgeon that just barely made it through, just like how Kamala Harris just made it through. But they passed and got their certificate, though. And now they about to cut your brains open under anesthesia. Imagine that, because that happens. It's just crazy, man. When you, let me ask you guys this. When you see the Biden debate against Trump, when you see Kamala Harris struggling through life, is anybody really surprised that, like, the country is in the state of dire decay that it's in? Is that shocking to anybody? None of this is shocking to me, but it's wild to, like, see people's reactions and listen to stuff on the news, and people just seem they can't believe all this stuff is going on. Are you serious? We literally have manufactured idiots that are not even smarter than a farm animal, that are somehow in positions of leadership, that are allegedly driving this thing. Of course it's going to crash. You know what I'm saying? But in a more recent appearance, a one-on-one with CNN's Anderson Cooper, in which she defended Mr. Biden's comatose debate performance, Ms. Harris looked calm and confident amid a political firestorm. If this high-stakes CNN joint interview falls into the latter category, then the Harris campaign will hope much of the criticism will fall away, said Mr. Felkel, the Republican strategist. They just need to be able to say, see, we told you, he said, and then keep it moving. It didn't work out like that. It didn't work out like that. If you ask me, this interview has created a cascading amount of retro criticisms of things that she's said and done wrong in the past. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to DBB. What's good with the DBB? This hasn't helped her case at all. At all. And honestly, even as light of an interview as this was, it was a full exposure, if you ask me. It was a full exposure because now we looked at her dealing with situations on easy mode, and when you're struggling through easy mode, how are you struggling through easy mode? Now, speaking of the emotional support animal, they got an emotional support group. We about to listen to the emotional support group. Hold on real quick. Y'all can get a good laugh from this. Let me see. Hold on real quick. Real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching. I appreciate you guys. If you all haven't smashed the like button, please take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell. And also, please share the stream to your social media.
What I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any
same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
Let me ask you guys this. Was that an effective way to deal with that? And shout out to Truck Driver for being a like enforcer. Throw them like enforcers in the chat for Truck Driver. What was that? What's that supposed to do? She just got herself look. She just made her face look like one of those people that Cat Williams was describing in the classic Club Shay Shay podcast. One of them women that they'll get you if you successfully complete a Diddy party. That's what she just did her face like. I mean, what's that supposed to do? Why didn't you address the question? She made herself have a Diddy party favor face. Like, seriously?
That's it. That's it.
Vice President Kamala Harris, in her first TV interview since becoming the Democratic nominee, quickly brushing off Donald Trump's comments on her racial identity. As the vice president hits the campaign trail, there is a growing focus on a group of voters that doesn't usually get recognized as a political demographic. That is mixed race voters, people of two or more races. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent and co-anchor of NBC News Daily, Morgan Radford. She sat down with a group of mixed race and multi-ethnic voters to get their take on this election. Morgan, it is great to see you. What did they tell you?
Hey there, really good morning. Look, this was a fascinating conversation, just to say the least. We talked to 6 people across a range of different racial, ethnic.
I don't understand how this particular situation has anything to do with quote unquote mixed race voters. I don't think anything was in question about her being quote unquote mixed race. What was in question was the black part specifically, not a question of her being mixed. Because it's not verified that her father is a black Jamaican. So I don't think that there's any confusion about anything about her being mixed. The clarification is surrounding the black part of her family. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down.
And political backgrounds in my home state, the swing state of North Carolina. And many of them said that, look, the census forms and the boxes on polls, they give them pause, sometimes even panic because of the choices that those boxes force them to make. But even though they said those boxes are getting better and a little bit more inclusive over time, people's perceptions politically can still be pretty narrow. Take a look.
Identify as Indian American and white, Hispanic, Asian.
They're the face of a changing nation.
When anybody asks, I just say I'm black and.
So the first person that they got on there was an Indian American and white. That was the first person that they got on there. Allegedly, this is about preserving. This is about preserving Kamala Harris's blackness, and the first one they got on there is Indian and white.
Are getting better and a little bit more inclusive over time, people's perceptions politically can still be pretty narrow. Take a look.
I identify as Indian American and white. Hispanic, Asian.
They're the face of a changing nation.
When anybody asks, I just say I'm black and Puerto Rican.
All my grandparents.
Right. No, shout out to RT the brand. Right. I don't think anybody disagrees with you. So the burden of proof is on Kamala Harris because she's the one going around telling everybody all of this stuff. And then she's got her simp army trying to enforce it without any evidence. Now, if her father is quote unquote African-American, how come no African news media company came out with the article about his family tree? The Irish Times came out with an article about it. And we know that there's a heavy Irish presence in Jamaica. So where is her black part of her family? How did she become a Baptist? Where did the collard greens come from? Who you cooking these collard greens for? Since when do Jamaicans, if your father is a black Jamaican, even deal with collard greens? That's something that comes from the South. Slavery plantation. She uses her ethnicity to try to do anything. That's why her father was angry at her when she went on the Breakfast Club and she said she associated being Jamaican with smoking weed. Her father knocked that down and took care of that and got on TV and corrected that real quick. You're not going to associate something negative with my ethnicity. He took care of her real quick. Y'all remember that? Now, see, what I find interesting is that she tried to associate, look at what her father did. She tried to associate smoking weed, something negative, with her Jamaican ancestry, and her father got on TV, got in touch with Fox, and shut that down. All the negative stuff that they try to associate with black people, D.L. Hughley, Steve Harvey, and all these other people try to substantiate the negative stuff and say, that's because she black. She got a hard to pronounce name. She black. Her name don't have anything to do with black. Her name means lotus in Indian. Her name is a name named after her mom. Now, these people sit there and talk about these fraternities that they're in, but I know one thing about those fraternities. They do have a minimum GPA standard that they have to be in, unless you got your fraternity crossover honorary. But you can't be you at least you shouldn't, because it's a bad representation. You shouldn't be a complete idiot. You should have at least a little bit of sense in your head. Right? But I mean, these people, man, these celebrities, they literally get paid to be dumb. They find the dumbest of the dumb to give a big paycheck to and have a loud mouth and look like complete clowns on a camera. Now, why are these dudes like D.L. Hughley so proud to run and try to everything negative that's associated with black people, associate that with Kamala Harris? But her father, when she tried to associate something negative with his ethnicity, he made sure to draw a line in the sand. Look at what Jamie Foxx and Ricky Smiley and them do. Look at that groveling, generational simp behavior. Isn't that pathetic for a male to act like that? At some point, you got to look at those pathetic dudes like that and wonder, maybe they follow behind her and look at her the way that they look at her because they never had anybody raise them, because they surely don't act like any type of man that I know at all. I don't know anybody who's a man who was raised by a man that would do anything to try to disrespect their family name. When you're a man and you're actually raised by other men, you want to make your family name look as good and as honorable as possible. I remember back in the day when you used to know people by their family name. Oh, those the Williams over there. They, you know what I'm saying? They solid. You don't do no stuff like that. That's why I question a lot of these dudes. Where you grow up at? All this negative stuff that you associate, where did you grow up at? Because you definitely didn't grow up in nowhere like where I grew up at. All you do is just you associate negative stuff. You substantiate the negativity. It doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris does it. But her daddy took care of her. Got her together real quick. She hasn't said anything about associating being Jamaican and smoking weed since then, did she? So she listened when her father said something. Maybe that's why she had her emotional support animal there with her during the interview. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just curious. So then what happens is now we have MSNBC and they're making it as if this is somehow a quote unquote attack on quote unquote mixed people. I don't think that this was an attack on mixed people. You can be mixed with multiple races. So Kamala Harris can still be mixed. The question was about the black part. If you guys agree with me, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Sir, from a different ethnic background.
Multiracial Americans are now the fastest growing racial or ethnic group in the country over the last decade. And their voting power will be significant. In 6 battleground states, the population with 2 or more races has surged by more than 200%, including here in North Carolina's Mecklenburg County.
Can you raise your hand if you are a Republican, Democrat, Independent? Does the way that you identify racially impact your politics or specifically how you plan to vote this election?
Absolutely.
How so?
I'm not going to lend my support behind someone who does not support people who look like me. I don't think he sees me as who I am.
Former President Donald Trump.
Yes.
And what about the rest of you?
I just don't think that Kamala Harris has anything vested in the air finger quote black or Hispanic experience in so much as it would be.
Well, so here's my question. Why is this dude right here saying black or Hispanic experience? Why would she have anything vested in the Hispanic experience? I'm pretty sure she's not Hispanic. Am I going to get in trouble for saying she's not Hispanic? What are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing here? This is more simp behavior. This is more pathetic male behavior. What is this dude talking about?
Who does not support people who look like me. I don't think he sees me as who I am.
Former President Donald Trump.
Yes.
And what about the rest of you?
I just don't think that Kamala Harris has anything vested in the air finger quote black or Hispanic experience. And so
do you have anything invested in the Hispanic experience? Do y'all now we looked at LULAC because of that case that's going on in Texas. How many people remember the video that we did where we looked at LULAC because of that law that they overturned in Texas? Now, let me ask you guys this. When we were looking at LULAC, how many times did LULAC say black? How many times did LULAC say black? How many times they say black? They didn't say black at all. They didn't say black at all because they're not black. What I don't understand what this is. Right. Now, this is what those people, the same people that be calling Trump and JD Vance weird, this needs to get called weird. This is the kind of stuff Ricky Smiley and Charlamagne the God need to make corny jokes about and be overpaid radio hosts and comedians about. Roast this kind of nonsense. This doesn't make any sense.
so much as it would be identified by anybody that lives in those communities.
You're saying you don't think that she can help black or brown people?
No, I mean, going to Howard don't make you black.
A conversation that quickly turned to this moment in a July interview at the National Association of Black Journalists.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
What did you think when you heard those comments?
Highly offensive. I mean, I think.
Why were you offended? Why were you offended? How many people in the comment section were offended when they heard those comments? If you guys were offended, give me a thumbs up. If you weren't, give me a thumbs down. What was she offended about? So I want you guys to pay very close attention because we got the offense, the outrage economy. And it's just nothing but money. They're trying, the outrage Gestapo is trying to make it so that they can have tighter controls on everybody. You can maintain everybody's mental stability if you just relinquish control to these people to let them enforce everything. And you just act like you're heard about everything and they'll protect you from everybody. But in reality, you're just giving up your control to these people. That's the hustle. That's the trick bag. Shout out to AJ. What's good with you, bro?
I think probably every multiracial, mixed race, biracial person has had the experience of someone else telling them that they are not something enough. I think it's kind of triggering, right?
I think that could happen. A lot of times, I think that there's a lot of internal issues too. A lot of times, there's a lot of internal issues. A lot of times, you just sit there and listen to somebody talk and wish that they would shut up. How many people have ever been in that situation? There's a lot of times like you just kind of sit there and listen to somebody and you can't relate to anything that they're saying and they just won't shut the hell up. And you just be like, man, I really wish you would shut up. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it'd be some stuff like this. You know what I'm saying?
I think it is impossible to be biracial in America. And I think that it requires that you're covering all bases at all times. And it requires constant recognition of both identities. And I think when Donald Trump says stuff like that about Kamala Harris and implies that she's like.
This stuff is a case-by-case basis. It's a case-by-case basis. Because like I said, I got a lot of mixed people in my family. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of mixed people that I grew up with. A lot of my homies is mixed. None of my mixed friends look like this right here. The mixed people that I'm cool with look like Jeremy Meeks. You know what I'm saying? Or they look like who they look like? French Montana or somebody like that. It's not these type of people here. Not the Lane Bryant and polo shirt wearing type people. You know what I'm saying?
Picking a race for political advantage. It's tapping into an incredibly familiar sentiment that I think everyone on this panel can understand.
Marie and Adul, as Trump supporters, when you heard that comment, as mixed people, how did it register with you?
Well, my first thought was, that wasn't very well thought out. At the same time, though, when I heard it, I didn't hear it as an attack on Blacks or Indians. I heard it more so of him commenting towards identity politics and the appeal that some take to play up one side of their race over the other.
Adul, I see you nodding your head.
I agree with him. I didn't know she identified as Black because everything I saw was first South Asian, first Indian. There's none of that identified as Black.
Regardless of her parents, I mean, she was born in this country and she identifies as a Black person in this country in an American way and a unique.
So there's a genetic component too. Like this is what I'm talking about the transracial stuff. So by her logic, it's okay for Rachel Dolezal to say that she's Black. See, because now we're doing the whole I identify as thing. See, this is where you get into that problem of when you operate outside of reality and then you start substantiating all reality based on fiction. So now now we're doing the I identify as. This is what I'm saying. I did a video a long time ago about transracial before the whole Rachel Dolezal thing happened. And here we go. This is where we at. If she was born in this country, the only thing that does is make her nationality American. That's it. So what are they going to do? Create some type of psychological diagnosis called racial dysphoria, and then once you have a psychological diagnosis, that the Pritzker family could possibly pay lots of money for University of California, Berkeley to do a study on and fake scientifically substantiate. Then next thing you know, you'd be able to get on some type of therapy to what? Change your race and go through some type of transitions, like some people have done already. I want you guys, like, this is some interesting, kind of serious stuff that's been brewing and bubbling for a long time. And the party that will be the most likely to take you all the way there first will be the Democrats. But both parties are on this, though, because, see, this is a colorblind society. This is just the left-wing version of the colorblind society. The right wing wants the same thing. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Don't get it twisted. This is just the left-wing version of it. The right-wing version wants the same thing. They want to blend everybody together. The right wing want to bleach everybody, but they want the same goal.
People, how did it register with you?
Well, my first thought was, that wasn't very well thought out. At the same time, though, when I heard it, I didn't hear it as an attack on Blacks or Indians. I heard it more so of him commenting towards identity politics and the appeal that some take to play up one side of their race over the other.
Adol, I see you nodding your head.
I agree with him. I didn't know she identified as Black because everything I saw was first South Asian, first Indian. There's none of that identified as Black.
Regardless of her parents, I mean, she was born in this country and she identifies as a Black person in this country in an American way, in a uniquely American.
She was born in this country and she identified. So this is the question that I've been asking. Who is she cooking these collard greens for? How did she become Baptist? Seriously, I need somebody in the comment section to help me out. Who is she cooking these greens for? She's not cooking them for her husband. She definitely not cooking them for her mom. And I know she ain't cooking them for her dad. Who is she cooking the greens for? Who's she cooking the greens for? How did she become a Baptist? So you went from having a red dot in your head to being a Baptist, right? You went from this to a Baptist. You went from nirvana and reincarnation to the Baptist. How? Make it make sense.
For her to identify herself as a Black woman.
She said multiple times she's a Black woman.
I've never heard it.
But I'm Black.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of being Black.
Politics sometimes becoming personal this year, with mixed race Americans having representation on both tickets.
I don't agree with anything J.D. Vance has to say. I mean, almost nothing. But I think it's incredible that we've gotten to a point where the vice president of the United States can have a wife named Usha Chilikari and a son named Vivek. That doesn't mean
So that's interesting, right? So he doesn't care about any of this. He doesn't care about being mixed or all that. But what he does care about is some people that got some Indian sounding names. So you do care something about something. You do care something about something, right? Okay. Now, you wouldn't have been impressed if the name was Bob. You clearly weren't impressed with the name JD. So you care about something, right? Okay. Real quick, shout out to you guys, man. I appreciate you guys. We got 58 people watching and we got 73 likes. If everybody could take a moment, smash that like button. If you guys haven't hit the like button, please do it. If you haven't hit the bell, please hit that bell. Let's try to get the likes to about 140.
I won't vote against him in November.
Even though you disagree with Kamala Harris politically, do you feel some kinship towards her as a mixed person?
Not personally. I find a lot of her trajectory to not be my brand of woman leader. We've got 3 major international crises going on and someone applying to be commander-in-chief. As a woman, I want to see you do more than, appeal to giggling and having a girl moment on the stage.
Was there ever a moment that sort of forced you to confront the concept of race?
For me, it's more about ethnicity. As you guys can see, I have an accent, right? And I speak with an accent. I don't think with an accent.
You just learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
A conversation with implications beyond the ballot box.
I think every time we see polling, it's about race. And, you know, as a candidate of color, you put a lot of stake into how this candidate represents, say, the Black experience or the Indian American experience. I think we will never ask Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Bill Clinton or George Bush to do the same thing. I think white people are expected and people of color aren't.
To do what?
To be in the highest office in the United States.
That was weird. That was different. That's what they say, right? Like, that was different. Shout out to the perpetual 50. Throw some hashtag 50s in the chat. So that's interesting, man. That's interesting. So I think we're gonna mess around and do episode 3 tomorrow. What y'all think? If y'all want to do an episode 3 tomorrow, throw some flames in the chat. If y'all don't, then give me a thumbs down. Shout out to the stream sponsors, man. I appreciate y'all, man. We had 3. Shout out to my man Kid Gravity. I appreciate it. Shout out to Cutthroat Ra. I appreciate it. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Make sure y'all show Brooklyn Queen some love, because go shorty, it's your birthday. Throw some birthday cakes and some birthday boxes, you know what I'm saying, in the chat for Brooklyn Queen. I appreciate y'all. Don't move a muscle. It'll take you into the next scheduled stream. And as always, ladies and gentlemen,